Hello everyone, it's Lit Lessons with GCSE Memes here. Today we'll be looking at Animal Farm with you and looking at 10 key quotations that I would make sure I memorise and learn and test myself on, make flashcards or mind maps over, that would really help me in any examination that might come up. I've chosen 10 of my favourite lines from the text that cover a wide range of characters, a wide range of themes, that if I learnt them really well, I could go into the exam knowing I'll probably be able to use at least 3 or 4 of these in a response where I don't get the book in front of me. So, without further ado, let's have a look at these quotations. So I've started with this quote from chapter 3. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad was inscribed on the end wall of the barn. And this symbol of this quotation is really useful for a number of reasons. First of all, this is a mantra that gets repeated throughout the novella by a range of characters, whether it be the sheep, whether it be the sort of wider animal community, showing that these animals are kind of instilling this belief in one another, this kind of hatred for human beings. And human beings become kind of a common enemy throughout the text, which allows them to be used as a good motivator for the animals to do what they're told. And this mantra is incredibly simple as well in language, which shows you it's got wide accessibility, that any animal can learn it and understand it and follow it too. Okay, and it is on the end wall. Why? Probably because it's showing it's the most important thing for the animals to remember is that human beings are bad. So that's why it's quote number 1. Quote number 2 then is this quotation here. The mystery of where the milk went was soon cleared up. It was mixed every day into the pig's mash. And this is a quotation where we follow the point of view of the general animal population, as we do throughout the text. The narrator seems to follow the general animal population on purpose, because it shows you how ignorant and unintelligent they are, that they don't realise something pretty obvious, that the milk and apples have been taken by the pigs for their own use. And the use of the word mystery in this quotation shows you that even something that's pretty obvious is mysterious to them. And this is a real early indication, this quotation, of how corrupt the idea of equality and the idea of animalism has become straight away. The animals never really do achieve equality, if we're honest. And the fact that this happens just after the revolution kind of represents and shows that straight away. And this use of these milk and apples, things that are harvested by the sort of working man and the whole general animal population, kind of represents the kind of human luxuries that are produced by workforces and then exploited by the higher class people during this time. Quote 3 then is Snowball's exiling. And it says this here: Snowball was running as only a pig can run, but the dogs were close on his heels. And this quotation here is basically where Snowball is chased out of the farm by the dogs. And it's one of the first times we see violence really between the animals in the text. And it's real sort of representation of things to come. It's kind of foreshadowing more future violence, and that becomes even more clearly as the animals are quite silent after this first event, and they become silent once again whenever anything violent happens towards them or one of their own. And the fact that Snowball seems to be one of the more measured and thoughtful pigs and leaders kind of also foreshadows terrible things to come, especially as he is chased off the farm under Napoleon's orders. Napoleon being this kind of brutish, ruthless leader in comparison. And it's good to remember to mention your context as well. Snowball is a representation of Leon Trotsky, okay, who was himself exiled during the revolution too. Quote 4 then is Squealer, and it's Squealer's manipulation of the animals in chapter 5. He claims to the other animals that Napoleon had never in reality been opposed to the windmill. The windmill was in fact Napoleon's own creation. He completely twists Napoleon's dismissal of Snowball's idea for a windmill and makes it his own idea. And Squealer is this master and immense user of language for manipulative purposes, and here we see him doing this. He lies about the windmill's creation and conception, so that it can still be created. And the windmill is, again, a representation of something, as everything seems to be in this text. And it seems to represent sort of industry and technology. And it's good to remember that those things are constantly evolving in society, particularly in the 20th and 21st century. So the fact that they are evolving and changing constantly suggests to me that the construction of the windmills and by extension technology is never ending. So no matter, even if they finish their first windmill, they'll probably be made to make more and more of these. Quote 5 then is another Squealer quotation, and it's this one here. "Surely, comrades, you don't want Jones back." A quotation repeated regularly by Squealer. And once again, he's using fear as a motivator here, especially fear of human beings. And Squealer repeats this line a number of times into scaring the animals into obeying what they're told to do and not grumbling about things they dislike. And the sad irony is that actually, with Napoleon as leader, they have someone who is pretty much the same as Farmer Jones in terms of leadership skills and the way he treats one another. And what Squealer represents, and it's good to remember to mention this, is that he represents propaganda, and the newspapers used by Stalin to essentially get people to follow his orders and stay on his side. And that's why he uses so many persuasive rhetorical features. Quote 6 then is a quotation said by Boxer. Actually, it's two quotations said by Boxer. "I will work harder, and Napoleon is always right," his slogans. And again, this is repeated throughout the text, and it shows you through his simplicity of language that he hasn't got much of a brain. He's unintelligent, he's got small mental abilities. And unfortunately, his blind loyalty here is kind of ironic, because he's taken advantage of by the people he is loyal to. Napoleon is always right. Sad, because actually Napoleon exploits him completely. On top of this, we've got to remember that he represents probably all the working class population in Russia at the time. Huge in terms of population, but not quite as intelligent as they need to be to understand that they're being exploited. Quote 7 then is said by Moses the raven. Up there, just on the other side of that dark cloud that you can see, there it lies, Sugar Candy Mountain. Now Moses, remember, is a metaphor, as is the quotation. He is a raven, and it's symbolic of death, as ravens tend to be in most texts, making him immediately kind of appear untrustworthy and negative indeed. And the fact that he refers to this place as Sugar Candy Mountain is kind of suggesting this place is too good to be true. It doesn't exist. It's make-believe. And what Moses represents, as his name probably suggests, is the church in Russia, and Sugar Candy Mountain is probably a representation, therefore, of heaven. So he's basically the church telling people to behave themselves and to work hard during the revolution with the promises of heaven. And it seems that Orwell seems to be suggesting these promises are nothing but false. Quote 8 then is Clover saying to Boxer as he's being led away in a horse box. Boxer cried at Clover in a terrible voice. "Boxer, get out quickly, they're taking you to your death." And these exclamations used in this quotation shows her desperation, the desperation of all the animals who want to save the immensely popular Boxer. But Squealer dismisses the fact that actually Boxer is being led to a glue boilers, which seems to be the rumour, and says actually he is being taken off to a retirement home or situation. And the fact that they don't argue this, the other animals, suggest they're either too dumb or too scared to question this. And his death probably represents actually the lack of benefits for working class people who are left essentially to die if they are unable to work in this communist Russia. Quote 9 then is the final commandment left. "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others." And this paradox really kind of represents the confusing and nonsensical corruption of equality that has occurred on the farm. It becomes a real symbol of the revolution's failure in my mind. Quote 10 then is this quotation here, the final quotation in the whole text. "The creatures outside look from pig to man, from man to pig, from pig to man again, but already it was impossible to say which was which." And this is quite a long quotation, but this is a lovely example of the cyclical structure of the text, how things have come around full circle. And the final lines basically show you that Napoleon no longer even hides the fact that he's pretty much just like Farmer Jones, and leads the farm in many ways the same way as Jones did. And by making the main leadership in this pigs, it becomes quite apparent by the end of this text that Orwell is showing his distaste for the leaders of the Russian Revolution, who took this beautiful idea of equality and corrupted it pretty quickly on. And Orwell himself was this massive advocate of social equality, so it becomes quite a criticism of how badly the Russians failed at their attempts of it. So, it's up to you now what you do with regards to these quotations, whether you jot them down, whether you make flashcards out of them, whether you test yourself on them or rewatch and pause this video regularly. But do make sure you know them as well as you possibly can to give yourself a good chance of using them in your upcoming examinations. Here's a meme from me. I've used a gaming meme for today. As always, if you've got anything you'd like to request, check out our Instagram page, like and subscribe to this page, make some comments in the comment section below, and check out any of the other videos that I created on this page as well. Thank you.